And welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Starting our fantasy football segment of our programming anyway. We're going to have a bunch of that going on over the next week. And tonight we're kind of go through some fantasy drafts anyway, just kind of have some fun, tinker around with them, see how things go. Done one draft already today, and just trying to see how everything's going this year. Of course, Jonathan Taylor is your number one pick so far this year, pretty much in every draft that I've seen. Christian McCaffrey is usually the number 2 pick, but we've seen that change from time to time. But without further ado, let's kind of flip that over to the screen so that you guys can see where we're at. We're using ESPN's fantasy football anyway, and so if you guys have the fantasy app, you guys can join there. Draft your own team. All right, so this is where we're at anyway. Top few picks anyway have already come off the board. And we're left with one of the top receivers, 2 of them anyway, left on the board, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. If I had the pick between the 2, my pick would be Justin Jefferson. Kamara, I think, is going to have a pretty decent year. It's very tempting to take Debo or Adams, but Justin Jefferson's by far the correct pick here. So we're going to go ahead and take Justin Jefferson with our first pick. If you guys want to follow along, you can, or if you guys want to draft your own team while we talk, you're more than welcome to. Hope you guys are having a good time. Enjoyed your week of work. Got one more day for me tomorrow at work, and then I can have some fun with y'all pretty much for the entire evening tomorrow. We'll probably have a several hour-long live stream watching some Cowboys preseason because I'm down here in Texas, so I get pretty much every single Cowboys game. Cowboys just got their 3rd interception of the day off of Drew Lock. That one not on Drew Lock. That one literally bounced off the receiver up into the air and then right into the waiting arms of the safety. As you can see, we've still got Debo on the board. Diggs is still on the board. Mixon is there. Swift is there. I don't know. Welcome back, Ryan. Not that kind of a draft anyway. It's very tempting to take a tight end though, but it's still a little early in my opinion to take one. So, do I go double up on receiver here early? I just might. Got about a minute left to pick. And you guys, whenever y'all draft, don't be afraid to use up your time. The other people in your draft don't care if you take all your time or not. They don't care if it's your. They don't care about your team, so you do what you have to do. And not a touchdown there. All right. There's still a couple of good running backs on the board, but by the time my next pick comes around, they're probably going to be off. But Debo Samuel is just too tempting to take here. Or to not take, anyway. Swift will be good, but running back I think I can always piecemeal together better than I can receiver. Just because there's always an injury. There's always one running back we don't see getting hurt, and then their backup having good production. But having the chance of having a stack of Samuel and Jefferson is too much to pass up for me. Oh! Did he get both feet down? They're saying touchdown, but I don't know after review. Cowboys score a touchdown against the Seahawks. I don't know if that'll stand or not. We'll see. That was a hell of a catch, though. All right, so we got, 7 picks, 10 picks left. So we can expect probably a James Conner area to be available. T. Higgins. I'm not a Saquon fan. Sorry, I'm not an Akers fan this year. I'm out on both of those players this year. If Kelsey's there, he's definitely my pick. If Williams is there, he's definitely my pick. I just don't think they're going to get me. I got an auto pick in front of me right over here. That means definitely one of those guys, if not both of them, will be gone. Nick Chubb is still there, so I might have to take him. Well, we got some people finally joining the draft, so now that we've got actual people here, we might see one of them fall to me. Pete Alonso just hit a walk-off for the Mets against, it doesn't say who they were playing today. There's Saquon. Hey, we might get lucky. I doubt it, but fingers crossed. One of my late round sleepers this year is Dubes, anyway, from the Green Bay Packers. As much as Aaron Rodgers is talking him up, if you guys have followed Matthew Berry at all, he is no longer with ESPN. He has moved on to NBC Sports. He does a fantasy football happy hour on Peacock. He is all over Dubes this year, anyway, I should say. There goes Kelsey. Well, that means Williams is definitely going to be gone. Time to look at the next tier of players. All right, so that means Higgins is a possibility. But Nick Chubb, I think, is... oh, there goes Chubb. Dang it. All right, let's see who they got left at running back. Akers. Breece Hall is still very high. Dobbins is going to get a lot of work, but he hasn't shown the ability to handle that type of workload yet. I don't think he has a single game where he has over 20 carries in a game. I don't know. Higgins could outcatch and be the better fantasy guy out of Cincinnati this year. Do I go 3 elite receivers? There's still... Ooh, and there's one good tight end left, too. I'm at the wrong part of the draft because I'm not an Akers fan. He has not looked good after his injury last year. Got about 30 seconds left to decide. So our options really are Higgins, Pitts, Dobbins, and Elliott. I think I take Higgins. We'll take Higgins there. We're going to lose at least one auto draft person here. 2 auto drafts out of here. So you're looking Akers at minimum. But I'm more looking at Pitts and then one of the running backs possibly to be my lead back this year. I'm hoping with the injury to Tyron Smith that'll keep Elliott around, not for this pick but the following. I really do like Pitts here. He's the last of the elite tight ends this year. Lamar Jackson went off the board really early, and there goes Zeke. Wow, that's surprising. Well, wow, that's early for ETN. Okay. Well, Akers is still there, surprisingly. Look up his information for y'all. Yeah. I just think Darrell Henderson's going to outplay him this year. So I don't really have a lot of faith in Cam Akers. But I need a running back, and I need one like yesterday. So probably going to go with Dobbins here. I think there's a chance Pitts falls to me with the next pick. So I'm going to go ahead and take Dobbins. That touchdown did stand for the Cowboys, by the way. That was an unbelievable toe tap, toe drag swag, as they call it nowadays. Now we should see a big run on receivers here. Thank you guys for joining us again. Appreciate that. Looks like we got about, 10 picks before our next. So we're looking probably Pitts, Hall, Allen. Allen's definitely going to be gone. Somebody's always takes quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown last year was the second best receiver in fantasy over the final 5 weeks of the year last year. But you got to remember that was without Swift in the lineup, Hawkinson, or any other real weapons. Mooney is one of the only receivers still standing for the Bears. He should have a good year. Gabriel Davis had that 4-touchdown game for the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs last year. Jerry Jeudy now has an accurate quarterback to deal with. As I mentioned, quarterbacks are now coming off the board. Allen and Mahomes are now gone. I usually wait on quarterback unless one literally falls to me. Like say Josh Allen was there at pick 54 or something like that, then I'd probably take him. But there's no way he was making it that far. There goes Waddle. I think there's a real chance Jalen Waddle is the better fantasy receiver this year than Tyreek Hill. Just because of in a PPR league, he's going to rake in all those catches. Those 3-yard, 4-yard catches. He just racks them up over and over and over again. Tua looks for him in those spots. They don't really find him down the field yet, which I'm wondering is why maybe they brought in Tyreek Hill to take the cover off of the defense and allow more yak for Waddle. But I think they're going to have a more dynamic offense. Even if Tua doesn't deliver the ball the way, a guy like Patrick Mahomes would, you're still looking at a very good offense there next year, or this year anyway, for the Miami Dolphins. You got to wonder, though, if it's going to be good enough. Looks like Pitts may indeed fall to me. Still kind of hoping he is there. And then we're really going to have to rack up all those intermediate running backs. Priest out of the Texans anyway looks very promising. As I mentioned, Darrell Henderson I expect to really take over that position for the Rams at some point. He looks to be the more explosive back, and he averages 4.5 yards a carry last year. Last year, Cam Akers in his return only averaged like 2.9, 2.7, something like that. It was abysmal. But if Pitts goes off the board, let's just see where our running backs are. I do like Elijah Mitchell anyway. It'll be his second year now. And Pitts is there. Okay. It's still a little early for these running backs, though. Josh Jacobs, I am out on this year. Sean McVay. Josh McDaniels, anyway, the new head coach of the Raiders. There was some rumors that they may end up moving him because they don't really like to have one key back in the backfield. Josh McDaniels, you think, has been in New England for a number of years. The last big, 3-down back that he's worked with was Corey Dillon. It's been a long time. But we're going to go running back with our next pick. I think this one we have to jump on Kyle Pitts. Got just a few picks in between us and our next one. We still don't have a quarterback, but I do like Jalen Hurts for fantasy this year. I don't like him for real-life quarterback play, though. A lot of good receivers in this area. Looks like Mitchell is dealing with some sort of hamstring issue. Hasn't practiced since August 10th. Won't play preseason. Still is the top running back, though. He's probably going to be my next pick if I had to guess. Looks like he's looking at the running backs as well. Welcome in, Patrick. Okay, so more tight ends came off the board. We still got our pick of running back at the moment anyway. There's some high-quality receivers still on the board, but we need backs at this point. Do not fall for this player. If you have to avoid this player at all costs, do it. Miles Sanders will not be fantasy relevant for you this year. I'm telling you right now, avoid this player like the plague. Miles Sanders is fool's gold. Do not fall for it. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and take Elijah Mitchell. All right. Let me read what you had to say, Patrick. Third and fourth picks back-to-back. First two picks are running back. Higgins. I would go with Higgins for sure. Maybe Connor out of that group. I just don't like the receivers that you got in that to choose from. I mean, I don't expect a bunch out of the Carolina offense. Keenan Allen's always an injury issue for me. He's always hit and miss. Mike Williams isn't necessarily injury issues, but it's just hit and miss performance. Some weeks he'll give you 30 points, other weeks he'll give you 2. So Higgins has the safest floor, so I'd take him for sure. Connor, though, gets a lot of goal line work, and the Cardinals love to run the ball at the goal line, so I would probably pick him next. Even though you did go to first two picks were backs, I still would go Connor. He'd probably be your safe flex play every single week. But Higgins has a chance to be a top 10 player in fantasy, period. I mean, I know everybody loves Jamar Chase, but Higgins was the better receiver for the most part last year. He's always good for 7, 8 catches every single week, 50, 60 yards. And in the red zone, he looks for him. I mean, he looks for Chase too, but I mean, it's going to be right there. And for a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, Higgins is definitely the best receiver out of that group, and then Connor. Looks like we got some people that left the draft anyway. So we got to wait for their auto pick to kick in. And now they're all of a sudden back. Awesome. It's one thing I don't like about phones that are people that play on their phones. They duck in and out of their draft so much. You just have to. Sometimes they go on auto pick and then they come back and then they forget that they were drafting and then they go on auto pick again. Just frustrating. Now, if they're actually there and picking, taking their time, thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. But yeah, we'll do some fantasy football pretty much for the next few days at least. That's why, if you notice in the title of this video, it says Night 1. We're going to do this at least through Tuesday. We're going to do at least a few drafts every single night. Sunday I'm off of work, so we'll try to do some during the day anyway. About to go into round 7 here. I do like my triumvirate, if you will, at receiver. I still would like another good running back. There aren't a whole lot left. Kareem Hunt possibly, Singletary possibly. They don't really move the needle for me though. Dameon Pierce, that's his name. I don't know why I said Priest. If I had to pick a New England running back, I'd probably pick Stevenson, just because he's going to take that James White role. Plus, he can run pretty much all over the field. He has the ability to be a 3-down back, so in a week where they might have one guy out due to injury, he's probably the one guy they're going to pick up as far as his level of productivity in that offense. So he'll probably be the more fantasy relevant running back week to week. Now, that doesn't mean that Damian Harris won't still be relevant. It just means that Stevenson will be the better of the two. There goes Singletary. So most of the good running backs are gone at this point. The only one left that's even close to this ADP is Miles Sanders. And as I mentioned, I'm staying away from him like the plague. And it looks like I'm going to have a good choice of receivers to choose from here. There goes Jalen Hurts. I was kind of hoping he would fall for at least another round, because his ADP right now, I believe, is around pick 90. We're right now at pick 61 when that was taken, 62. Dawson Knox this early? Ouch. No thanks. I like Dawson Knox, but not this early, that's for sure. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Going to go through some fantasy drafts. If you guys are participating, doing some drafts of your own, submit any questions you have. Michael Thomas, another player I'm steering away from. Ankle issues still. There goes Gabriel Davis and Jerry Jeudy. So that kind of leaves me with a couple of receivers. Oh, and there goes the one I was kind of keeping my eye on. Allen Robinson. I haven't drafted him yet this year, but I hear nothing but good things coming out of Rams camp about where his involvement is for the Rams this year. All right, so that leaves us with Darnell Mooney. I'm steering away from Amari Cooper just because of the Jacoby Brissett situation, etc., etc. Hunter Renfrow. He's more of a catch magnet, that kind of thing, as far as, 8 catches for 60 yards. But with Adams in the lineup now, I wonder if that trails off to more of 4 catches for 40 yards instead of 8 catches for 65 or 70. So that's kind of why I'm steering away a little bit from Hunter Renfrow. Still a very good receiver, so maybe if he's there by 74, I might pick him. But if I had to pick at this point, I'm thinking Schuster is probably one of my top options. I like Thielen, and I love Kirk this year. Moody is there. I just can't trust that offense with the Bears. I can't do it. Schuster, or I'd like Bateman as well. Kirk. When in doubt, go with Patrick Mahomes. And he's probably going to be right up there as one of the top receiving options this year for the Chiefs. All right. Got about 6 picks until mine. So we're looking probably at Renfrow, Thielen as the top options, possibly. So go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Kirk is probably my best receiving option left on the board. I know you guys are probably wondering, Christian Kirk, why? Well, look at the way that Trevor Lawrence likes to throw the ball to his receivers. He likes to look for that underneath route, that kind of a thing, and that's where Christian Kirk is is regularly deployed. That's why they gave him so much money. He's really good at that inside route. He's going to be working out of that slot, working underneath short and intermediate routes. So he's going to be a catch magnet, target magnet. You're looking probably at a solid 8 catches a game, probably 12 to 15 targets a game. And there goes Kareem Hunt off the board. He was the other running back I was thinking about. I just don't think there's enough carries there between Chubb and Hunt to make Hunt relevant yet. But for this pick, I think I'm pretty safe going with Christian Kirk. What do you guys think? Should I lock up the running back first? It's a long way back to the next pick. There's only 3 running backs left of real value here. I've got Dobbins. I've got Mitchell. It's another running back I like, A.J. Dillon. Kirk is the better player for fantasy, but I've already got 3 elite receivers with Schuster there as well. This is way overdrafting for it, but I gotta go Pierce. Sometimes it's just the way the board falls to you. Now, if it comes back around and Kirk's still on the board, then I can justify the pick of him. But as it stands right now, I just can't. And I don't think Kirk will be there just because of all the auto picks in front of me. But there are other receivers that I can get later in the draft that I want to get. Plus, I still have to get my quarterback here in the next few picks. Tom Brady still available as well. I still think he's going to be a top 10 top 10 quarterback this year in fantasy. Last year he was top 5. Him missing time this year in preseason did not worry me at all, but I do worry about the running back situation. I worry about the offensive line. And he is a year older, so I do worry about him staying healthy for a full season. As you can see, I got 3 of them already set in my queue for quarterbacks. Joe Burrow is outside of the top 10 for me. Trey Lance has a chance to be a top 10 quarterback this year just because of the running ability. And he's shown in preseason he's got a little bit of a cannon on him, so he might be able to be a little bit better of a passer than we thought coming into the season last year and this year, honestly. I did not see him being able to complete balls down the field anyway. But he's performed very well so far. Derek Carr's a top 15 quarterback, but I want a little bit better production. So if I go 2 quarterbacks, I'll probably go Lance as kind of my home run option. And maybe Brady as my safe pick. If he's gone, maybe Russell Wilson. I think Russ has a chance to be a top 8 to 12 quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback anymore. I think his days of that are long gone. Prescott will run a little bit more, but with that injury to Tyron Smith, I do wonder if they're going to be a little bit more of a quick count offense. 3-step drop and get the ball out a little bit more often. I don't think it's as bad as everybody thinks, but I still don't think it's a good situation. Seeing still a run on the running backs, or on the receivers there. Kirk is still there. If he's still here at 87, I'm taking him. Even though I shouldn't, even though my draft board says I shouldn't, he's too good of an option. If only just to keep him away from another team at this point. Just because I think he's an automatic 12 to 15 fantasy points a day. And if he gets in the end zone, he's a 20-piece. Now, is he an end zone target? No. They got a couple of tight ends for that. Oh, and DeAndre Hopkins is off the board. He is one of my other late round sleepers. For those of you who are wondering, he is suspended for the first 6 games of the year. But once he comes back, you're looking at an easy 15, 20 point a week performance. Christian Kirk might be there for me. I can't believe it. If he's there, I'm taking him. I don't care. Give me some Christian Kirk. Come on, Jackrabbits. Take Elijah Moore. Take Tyler Lockett. And then, of course, you still have Chase Edmunds in Miami. Raheem Mostert is there. He's one of my late-round flyers for running back that I like. Mostert, if you're a fantasy player from last year, you might remember, even though he had his injury issues in the games that he did play, he was phenomenal. Injuries have always been the issue with him. If you watched the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, you might have heard Matthew Berry refer to him as Raheem must start. Because when he is healthy, he is that good. And thank you for taking Tyler Lockett. I appreciate that very much. That leaves me with Christian Kirk, and we will gladly take him there. Looking at our bench anyway, we've got 3 running backs already on the roster now. We've got 5 receivers and a tight end. So we've pretty much locked up our receivers. I'm still going to look at a late round flyer on Dubes if he's still there with my final bench spot. But right now we're going to look at running back and quarterback next. Looks like we're coming up on the run of quarterbacks here. A couple of receivers there you can keep your eye out on. Robert Woods. He should probably be the most fantasy relevant receiver out of the Tennessee Titans this year. But again, you worry about the injuries. Alrighty. And there goes Rashad Penny. He was the other running back I was kind of keeping my eye on. But they've got a lot of good backs this year in Seattle, but he's going to see the majority of the work. Stevenson is still here. I'm very tempted to take him. But for where I'm at in this draft, I have to go quarterback. All right, so let me know, Brady or Wilson? Stafford's there, Burrow's there, but I think Brady is probably the safest out of any of those. So I think I'm going to go Brady. Brady it is. And I took him over 3 other running backs that I usually at least keep in mind around this area. Chase Edmunds coming over from Arizona. He was part of that backfield with Connor last year. Connor's going to get more of the work this year. I think he had, 18 touchdowns last year or something like that? There's Raheem. Put him in my queue before I forget. There we go. Alrighty. Just waiting for these quarterbacks to come off the board now. Trey Lance, A.J. Dillon, probably going to be in the mix for my next couple of picks. James Robinson is coming off an injury issue, but Etienne's going to be your starter there. Robinson should still get some nice fantasy work. If Etienne has any injury issues, you're looking at a top 10 running back right there. So he's an option for me. I think A.J. Dillon, though, is going to be a very fantasy relevant running back. I think it's very possible Green Bay could have 2 top 20 running backs this year. I think my next 2 picks are probably going to be Lance and Dillon. Nobody else really exciting for me in this area. That was a horrible kick. Cowboys thought they had their kicking position solved with Maher. Not so sure they do anymore. I think he was running out of town a little too early when they kept Greg the Leg Zuerlein a couple of years ago. I was really excited they brought him back again, but it just doesn't look like it's going to work out, I don't think. I think by the middle of the year, if not earlier, he's probably going to be out of town again. All right, we got 3 picks in front of us, including another auto pick. So it looks like we might get our wish in having Trey Lance still be there. He's going to be our home run option at quarterback this year. And for those of you wondering, always, always, always draft your defense and then your kicker. And those are the last 2 picks of your draft every single time. If you're one of those people that are like, I like drafting my starters first, and then not building out your bench, you're wasting a pick. Literally wasting it. So don't do it. I don't care how good that defense looks. If you think the Bills defense is the 85 Bears, I don't care. Don't pick them. And then I'm avoiding any piece of that Giants offense this year. I understand Dayball's there, but I just don't believe in the quarterbacks there. Just don't think they're going to get any type of offensive production, at least until next year, when Dayball can kind of have his real imprint on this team. Daniel Jones, I think his career is pretty much shot in New York. We'll see if Dayball can save him, but I don't think he will. Chargers defense. Thank you very much for giving up on your draft. This is where I'll take Trey Lance easily. Gives me a real chance as a home run option there at quarterback. Brady's still going to be my starter week to week until we see if Trey Lance can really hit. If he doesn't, I can easily drop him after a couple weeks. If he does, well, then I've got a top 5, top 10 quarterback that I took here in the, 12th round? 11th round? Not bad. So I've got 3 bench spots left. Just seeing if there's anybody else I absolutely have to have. A.J. Dillon was taken off the board already, though. He was somebody I was really hoping to have a chance at. That's okay. Let's see who else we have. Sorry, no Devontae Parker. How many running backs do I got? 3. I'm going to have 4. I need 1 more running back, probably. I like to carry 5 running backs at all times. You got your 2 starters, and then you got pretty much everybody else. I like to always pick up that first waiver wire addition I always try to do is a running back. Usually your week 1, week 2 options that are top end options there have a chance to stick as a top 10 running back that year. James Robinson is probably the safest pick right now. Marlon Mack coming off the board. Brian Robinson is gone. I do like Jerick McKinnon this year for the Kansas City Chiefs as a late round flyer if they finally give up on another one. Keeper League 14 man. Should I go Cup and lose my 3rd round pick, or Chase and lose my 4th? Both are great. Just getting different opinions as to the value. Cup. If I had to choose between those 2, Cup. Even though there is the higher pick anyway, I'd still rather have Cup between those 2, just because I think T. Higgins is a very good option in Cincinnati, and while I think both are going to be top 10 fantasy receivers, I think Cup is a top 3 guaranteed. I think Allen Robinson, while he's a great option, isn't going to be the guy that takes away carries, etc. All right, so with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and take James Robinson just because I need a 5th running back. I still would rather have Raheem Mostert before Robinson, but he'd be gone by then. So we'll see if he can make it to the next pick. But in a 14-man, 15-point or half-point PPR league, you take the advantage where you can, and I'd go with Cup. I mean, in a 14-man league anyway, you're going to have a lot of filler options at the back end of your roster that you can kind of tinker around with, which is why I'd still go more of the Cadillac at the top of the draft than I'd worry about the back end of your roster. So I'd go with the higher upside play in Cup. He also has the higher floor too, in my opinion. Chase could be the best fantasy player this year, but I think there's a more reliable chance that Cooper Kupp is going to be your top 3 fantasy wide receiver, whereas Chase could finish anywhere between 1 and 10. I think Kupp is almost guaranteed to finish between 1 and 3 if healthy. No! Somebody took my running back. Dang it. Well, let's go back to the drawing board. Anybody really exciting for y'all out there? Michael Carter. I still think Carter's going to be the starter at some point this year for the Jets. So this late in the draft, you're just looking for some... Ah, there we go. Darrell Henderson. Check up on his news. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take... we're going to go ahead and lock up Henderson first. Dubes will be the next option. And then we'll be down to defense and kicker. So I've got my 2 quarterbacks. I've got my 5 running backs. I never carry 2 tight ends unless the draft just is crazy and it falls that way. No! Somebody's been paying attention. Romeo just got taken as well. Damn. Well, in that case, let's look at the flex options that are still on the board. Anybody exciting to y'all? Jarvis Landry in New Orleans? No. Again, I don't want any part of that Giants offense. Madison if Cook gets hurt, but I don't really want to take that. Tolbert could be a good pick. Probably Pickens. I haven't drafted him yet, but he's got a good chance to be a solid receiver this year. At this late in the draft, I'll take the home run option. If he gets picked here, yep, he's probably going to get picked here because this was the guy who picked Dubes. Oh, no, he went with Trevor Lawrence. Okay. Well, give me George Pickens. Alrighty. Now, as I mentioned, you take your defense and then your kicker. Usually I try to draft the week 1 best option anyway. So, like, you look at who's facing the worst teams anyway. Just out of curiosity, let's just look at the schedule. Week 1. Who has the weakest opponent? Jaguars, Commanders, Ravens versus the Jets. So the Ravens defense could be the best option. Sorry, Jets with Joe Flacco. And the Ravens defense just in general. But if I had to guess, the Ravens defense is going to be long gone by the time I get there. So let's just kind of keep getting some options here. Saints play the Falcons, but again, the Saints are probably the top defense left here in fantasy. They're gonna be gone. Not even gonna bother putting them in the queue. Outside of that, Broncos. I don't know if they've already been taken. I think they have. Yep. Nope, they haven't. The Broncos are not a year-long pick here for me, but I think they're going to be a good fantasy relevant defense in week 1. But Ravens are still my top option. As far as kickers, this is where you're looking more season long, so players that have been more accurate 50-plus yard kicks is what I like to go for. Accuracy and then 50-plus. I don't really pay attention too much to 40. So look at, for instance, Brandon McManus has been one of my favorites to pick this year. Let's just look at his numbers, for instance. But up until the 40-yard line, accurate. Gets some good opportunity beyond 50-plus anyway last year. Got 9 opportunities. That's a lot. Now, the offense should be better anyway for the Broncos. So I wonder if they're going to convert more of those options. Now look at these extra points. Last year you converted 33 of 34. This year, though, they're going to probably score a lot more touchdowns. You're looking at a quarterback situation that's much improved as the Cowboys just got a touchdown in their preseason game late in the 4th quarter, tying it up with the extra point to come. As I mentioned, the Saints were the best defense. They've already gone off the board. Right after this one, we'll go ahead and jump right into another draft. I remember playing fantasy football when I was like 18, 17 years old, so that was a long time ago, but I don't know, probably 10, 15 years, 20 years ago now. But 10, 15, yeah, about 15 years anyway. But I remember playing those years, and back in the day, you could only have 10 teams per email address at ESPN leagues and so forth. They're very good as far as uh, making sure you weren't cheating or trying to steal up different, you know, trying to trade within yourselves and have two people in the same draft and try to cheat rosters. But anyway, back to my point. Back then, I would play all 10 teams that I could, and then I created 15 different email addresses just so I could play fantasy football. I had so many fantasy teams, it wasn't even funny. Was I able to get them all done every single day? Well, I'd start tinkering with my lineup about 8 a.m. before kickoffs. I would never make the early game. Of course, there weren't really the London games yet at that point anyway. But just before kickoff is when I'd finally set my final roster. No! There goes my defense. Okay. Who do we got left? Broncos defense. I think the 49ers defense has a chance to be really special this year. Hearing fantastic things about them. But they are playing the Bears, but they are on the road. West Coast team crossing, going to the East Coast. Well, Central anyway, at least. It's Trey Lance's first game. They're a better season-long defense. The Broncos are playing the Seahawks. The Seahawks are going to have good running game, and it's going to be reliant upon the run. Just because of the better possibilities for season-long, I'm going to go with the 49ers. All right, now for kicker. So I just mentioned that McManus is a good option for 50+, gives you good opportunities, that kind of thing. You also want to look at accuracy, etc., etc. Here's a kicker you don't want. Usually I like Buffalo kickers just because they get great opportunities. They are used a lot. Look at his numbers last year. He didn't attempt a lot of field goal attempts. He only attempted 4 50+ yard kicks. He did contribute at 51 extra points. They are very good at converting into touchdowns. So that kind of gives you a really high floor, but there's zero ceiling for him. His floor is his ceiling. So that would be a player I would avoid as far as a kicker anyway. Usually I stream the position anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you're looking at kicker in your draft, you want the best option available just in case you do hit on the number one kicker in fantasy. And that's not to say you won't cut him anyway on his bye week, but you want somebody who has that ability, and Bass just doesn't have it. McManus, I believe, does. And so I'm going to go ahead and take him. Pretty happy with the roster. As soon as this draft is over, we'll kind of go over it and see how it ended up. Appreciate you guys joining us. So there's our draft. First pick, we took Justin Jefferson. We came back and doubled up on receiver with Debo. It was too good of an option for our flex spot with T. Higgins still on the board, so we kind of went with 3 receivers. Receivers are always the hardest for me to project just because you can never really pick that 6th, 7th round guy quite perfectly. But if you do, you're great. But it's just very difficult for me. I just never really had much success with it. But then we went with our running backs anyway. We got Dobbins, we got Pitts, and then we got Mitchell. If Mitchell can stay healthy and Dobbins gets more of a workload, I really like our running backs. But I really want to see what happens after week 1. Who's going to be the waiver wire pick? I'm going to be one of the first guys to go after one of those options. And I got some options back here at the back end of my roster. Say if Robinson doesn't come back as healthy as I thought. Say if Pickens doesn't turn out to be the receiver that we thought. If Kenny Pickett can't get him the ball. If Darrell Henderson turns out to be more of a backup role, that kind of a thing. And Cam Akers shows that rejuvenated life back in his legs again, even after injury last year, and he only carried 2.7. Say something like that happens, I have some guys I can cut after week 1 if I need to. You'll notice I took my quarterbacks toward the back half in my draft. The only time you should ever take a quarterback this high in your draft in your top 6 picks is if it's one of those elite options that falls to you. Looking at Josh Allen, players like that. One of my favorite players in this year's draft is going to be Jalen Hurts. He is Matthew Berry's ride or die. He's probably been the fantasy guy, the fantasy guru, pretty much forever in fantasy sports anyway. And his fantasy ride or die is usually pretty accurate. And so for those of you targeting Jalen Hurts, you're doing something right. But Kyle Pitts anyway is going to be one of the top 3 fantasy options this year. I mean, who else are the Falcons going to throw the ball to? He's going to be running routes on almost every single play. I mean, they're going to feed him that ball. He's going to be an end zone target. He was not an end zone target last year, but there's literally nobody else for them to throw it to in Atlanta this year. Nobody else really excites you from that wide receiver position. Welcome in, Charles. That's okay. Yeah, we just kind of went through our draft. We're actually about to start a new one. So if you want to start your draft along with us, you can. But let's go to the team page. We're going to go to the sign up. All right. Aw, I know. We just went through a fantasy draft. We're literally just going to start another one, so don't worry. So we're going to join a public league. All right. So I've already done a few snakes. I do salary cap sometime. I haven't done that yet. We'll do salary cap tomorrow. I haven't done one yet this year. I want to see how it goes anyway. But in fact, I might do that with you guys live, just to kind of see how the salary cap goes this year. But you'll see my strategy as far as how I like to go with the salary cap league. But we'll go snake draft again and see how it goes. I was very hesitant to get into the points per reception thing over the past, 15 years of doing fantasy. But I've finally come around to it. It's actually kind of cool, and really kind of allows me to use my receivers differently. That's probably part of the reason why I've never been able to pick that 6th, 7th round receiver anyway quite right. But hopefully the better I get at it, the better it'll go. Salary cap league, I try to bid up every single player that I don't like. So for instance, at the top of the draft, I don't think anybody likes Leonard Fournette this year. So you get the option to nominate your player. So I'd nominate, say, Leonard Fournette and say, bid. There's always 1 or 2 auto picks, so you try to bid up those auto picks, and then some real person will come in and say, hey, I want Leonard Fournette, and I don't want these auto picks to get him. So then they start bidding in there. As soon as somebody real comes in to bid, I drop out. I don't want to get stuck with a player I don't want, but I also don't want him to go for cheap. So I like to drive that price up as much as I can just to make sure I have more money to go after the players I do want in that middle to late into the draft. I'm usually the player with actual money left over at the end of the draft. I'm the guy that spends $25 on a kicker at the very end just because I want the team I want. Now that also means that I'm not going to be getting Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, those top-end options, but I'm going to get a bunch of those round 3, round 4 type players, and I'm going to make my fantasy hay out of that. So I'll end up with like 6 to 7 second, third, fourth round players as opposed to 1 or 2 top round or second round players, and then not having anything else until like round 10 type of players. So I like to stack up on that middle of the draft anyway, in a normal snake type draft anyway, in a salary cap by sandbagging people who try to go after that top end talent. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's a player there usually goes in the first round, say Justin Jefferson, who's got say like a average assigned value of like $45 or something like that. If his value is at like $34 and nobody's bidding on him, if there's an auto draft, you got to be careful in how you do it because you don't want that auto draft to immediately outbid you right afterward. You got to do it just right. I'll show you guys how to do that tomorrow to where they don't immediately draft or outbid you again to drive that price up and get you out of an opportunity to get a player like that. But on players that there's opportunity on, say like Justin Jefferson being available for $34, that's a steal. If you can get somebody like that for that type of money, that's a good very good bet. But say you want something like that, you got to be careful with how you do it. And so every now and again, I might bid for those options, but that's not usually my strategy. But without further ado, let's go ahead and join a league. Go ahead and change it to Team Upside. Let's go ahead and change it to... No, that's fine. Let's return to the waiting room, shall we? There we go. Now you guys can go ahead and edit your pre-draft rankings if you want to. I think it's a lot of work for, every time you go into a draft, or if you give you an option to save it, I don't really know. But there's players at each range that I want to go with, and there's players, even if they're in that range for me, or not quite in that range for me yet, I still want to play the board that's in front of me, though. I never want to go too far out of what the norm is expected. That way I can have the safest floor that I can. So, for instance, you saw at the end of the draft, I missed out on guys like Raheem Mostert and Romeo Doubs. That's fine. I'd love to have them. I really think they're going to be fantastic back into the rotation or back into the roster options. But I'm not going to I'm not going to give up my draft earlier just to make sure I get those guys, earlier on in the draft. All right, did you get a draft room, Charles? Halfway checking to see if you're in my draft. I remember the days when you had the live draft lobby with ESPN. I really wish we had that. I'd pick my draft lobby based on the team that was in front of it. So I'd usually go for like Dallas or Green Bay or Kansas City or Minnesota or the Jets or Cleveland or some team that I actually enjoyed. So are you an ESPN guy or do you do Yahoo? Yahoo, I don't know. For ESPN, if you have the ESPN Fantasy app, or if you have ESPN on Fantasy on your computer, if you already have a profile, just create one, join a draft. Well, this is a public league, so it doesn't let me invite. It's already full. I'm trying to figure out how to set up a way to do it on here. I'm going to have too many too many people requesting it, I'm sure, if I tried to set up a league. But yeah, I really prefer ESPN's. I just like their format so much better. It's a lot more user-friendly in my opinion. All right, so without further ado, let's get in the draft. Gotta love the ads. Watching the tail end of the Seahawks and Cowboys. Oh, it's already started the draft. I got 2 minutes before my draft starts, though. But I'll stay on with you, though. My draft will probably end 10 minutes before you, but that's fine. I'll still be here for you. Plus, you can kind of see how things go before you do your pick. But I'll stay here with you. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page just because I don't really like what it's doing. There we go. So, I'm drafting 7th again! Yay! I hate drafting in the same spot twice. I like mixing it up and seeing where I fall at different positions. I still haven't been in the top 5 of a draft room yet this year. Snake for now. We'll do salary cap tomorrow night. I get off work around 5, so I'll probably start my live around 5:36 after I have some dinner. That was hilarious. Oh my god. If you were watching the Seahawks and Cowboys game, that snap came so high to the Seahawks quarterback, Eason. He literally did this and batted it forward with his hands above his head to try to catch it, and it just went right to the Cowboys defense. It's wow. Sorry, Jacob Eason. You've never really been given a shot in the NFL, and the one shot you did get, you got told to take a knee on 3rd and 9 from your own 20-yard line last year with the Giants. Good? What position are you drafting in? 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10? You chose the 10-team league, or how many teams? As expected, Jonathan Taylor goes first. Ooh, Jamar Chase. Still surprised Cooper Kupp doesn't go in the top 3 every single draft. Oh, it starts in 2 minutes. Gotcha. I'll gladly take Eckler if nobody's going to take him. So we've got 2 picks before us, and there's 4 players I really like out of that group. Now we only got 1 guy left. So I'm going to get one of the 2 running backs here. And they take Eckler, so that leaves me Henry and Najee Harris. Najee Harris didn't have a great year last year, but his floor is just so high. I mean, if Pickett can actually throw the ball, that Pittsburgh team has a chance to be very dynamic. Henry is a workhorse. Even with his injury last year, we saw how good he was when he came back. Ugh. Do I go another year with King Henry? I've never drafted him, which scares me. The one time I might draft him, he might get injured this year. Let's look at Najee Harris and see what his news is. He rushed for 1,200 yards last year, 300 carries. And that's behind a very bad offensive line. I mean, who else are they going to give the ball to in that backfield, though? Benny Snell? He's still going to get the workhorse back numbers. Henry. Let's check his numbers and news real quick. Since this is PPR, I'm going to go ahead and go Najee. I'm terrified of taking Derrick Henry because I've never taken him in a draft, and I'm terrified the one year I do, he's going to go down. Now, the one player I've gotten in almost every single draft so far this year is Debo Samuel. His floor for me is very high. I think they're going to deploy him as a runner this year. Quite a bit. I mean, just look at his numbers last year as a runner. I mean, he got almost 60 carries last year with 8 touchdowns. Now, those touchdowns are really high. I don't expect that to continue. But just look at his fantasy numbers last year. 338 last year. Those are quarterback level fantasy numbers for Debo Samuel. I really do like Devontae Adams as well. But you're going to have an auto pick here, it looks like. So that's at least the top 2 picks gone, Kamara and Henry. You can't expect Cook to be there because running backs are tough to come by at the top of a draft. But top-end wide receivers are even more rare after you get out of the 3rd round. Bad injury there in the Cowboys game. Running back got rolled up on. He's not putting any weight on that foot, too. Now he's trying to. He's struggling, though. He got rolled up on pretty good. There goes Devontae. Ah, and Debo and Stephon Diggs. Dang it. Those were the three receivers. I was hoping one would still be here. Well, I'm left in a tough spot here. Do I double stack the running back position? I don't think I like Mixon that much this year. I think they're still going to have a better offensive line. 300 carries, 13 touchdowns, decent receiving numbers. I just don't think his ceiling is very high. At this top end of the draft, I want somebody who's possibly a home run hitter with an exceptional floor. And I don't want to take a tight end yet. I think it's just a hair too early for one. I mean, Williams is very good. Connor is very good. I don't think they're going to be there, though, when I circle back around. Do you go CeeDee Lamb, possibly? I mean, last year, 1,100 yards, 79 balls. They no longer have not Cooper Kupp, but Amari Cooper. Crap, I got a couple seconds left. Scrap it. Dang it. Oh well. Mixon's floor is very high. I guess that locks up my running backs. Good. Cooper Kupp should be amazing for you. I don't like that spot. There's nothing left in that round 2 spot that I like. This is the type of draft where I wish I had a salary cap draft. Then I could go after guys like Kelsey, Connor, Jones, T. Higgins, players like that. And then I could throw out players like Saquon Barkley and say, hey, throw your money away at him. Stuff like that. Another interception for that Cowboys defense. All right. This draft is pretty much going chalk so far. Josh Allen was taken really high. Breece Hall, that's really high. Don't be the guy that takes Breece Hall in the second round. Don't. Okay, I got 5 picks left before me. I got Andrews, Williams, Kelsey, Connor, Jones, and Higgins. Higgins is probably my for sure guy. I really like Williams. For those of you who are wondering, Javonte Williams should be an absolute beast for the Broncos this year. Both of the tight ends are still there, though. I like the touchdown ability of Andrews more than I do of Kelsey. I like the yards and targets, anyway, for Kelsey. I'm hoping one of the 2 tight ends falls. If they don't, then I'm going to go T. Higgins for sure. But if I had to guess, T. Higgins is probably going to be taken before this. He's the top receiver left on the market. There goes Kelsey. Now watch, both Andrews and Higgins both get drafted here. That'd be my luck in this draft. Every year I have one draft where nothing goes right. There goes Connor. He was my top running back left. As long as they leave me Higgins or Andrews. That's all I want. One of those 2. Because one of those 2 is not going to make it to the next pick because you see all those auto drafts in between there. Ain't no way they get that far. Come on, crazy. Take Mike Evans or DJ Moore. Saquon. There's Zeke. Okay. Overdrafting Zeke a little bit. Well, there goes Mark Andrews. I needed an elite receiver anyway, so this is probably better for my draft board that T. Higgins fell to me. To me, T. Higgins is very likely a top 10 receiver this year. And look at that. Nick Chubb is there. Come on, fall to me, Nick Chubb. Thank you very much. That's a good pick. Now you got to get some running backs, unless another receiver is there at the top end. You want to get a Cadillac for your flex if your running back options are limited. But here, as you can see, Nick Chubb is by far the best running back left on the board. So Nick Chubb is my pick all day long. Now, with Nick Chubb being on my roster, I might want to pick up Kareem Hunt probably in the 7th round. We'll see if I have to, though. Depends on how the running back board falls to me. But just look at my running backs now. I'm pretty much set. Now, this is the part of the draft where I usually struggle with, is if I don't go receiver early, those middling receivers are very difficult to predict which one's going to hit. And you can only start 3 running backs. So you can't load up on 7 running backs and hope 5 of them start for you. Kyle Pitts, the other elite tight end, is now off the board. I was kind of hoping he would make it there, but he doesn't. Your top picks right now for me would probably be Waddle. Dobbins is elite. And then you got a whole bunch of nothing. Maybe Patrick Mahomes. But again, don't take him if he doesn't fall to you. Now, there's a lot of receivers in this area. I'm just not a big fan of a lot of them. I like going receiver early and receiver late. Running backs in the middle. There goes Mahomes. So I'm pretty much left with Waddle or bust at this point for receiver. But I don't want to have to rely on him every week, so this is why I worry. Even with getting Higgins there, I can probably count on him for 10 to 15 points. I want a home run hitting receiver at this point. McLaurin, he's going to be fantastic. I worry about injuries, though, with him. First draft, I've taken Najee or Joe Mixon in. I'm just hoping they leave Waddle alone. Looking at his points last year, 100 receptions with Tyreek Hill coming in there. They don't really have a must-start running back. Aside from Raheem, must-start. But they did bring over the offensive coordinator from the 49ers. They do like to run the ball there. But they've got a couple of fantastic receivers. Got to wonder if he's going to try to rev that engine early on in the season, see if Tua really has what it takes to be an elite starter. They need those questions answered. Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I mentioned, was a top 2 receiver last year in the final 5 weeks of the season. Was the second best fantasy receiver. But again, that was without Swift or Hawkinson in the lineup. He was getting like a 30% target share. With them in the lineup, he was only getting a 20% target share. Got 4 picks left. I don't think Waddle's going to fall to me. I'm not that lucky. Hollywood Brown is still there. Hamstring issues. Uh-oh. I could see Hollywood Brown as that Christian Kirk role in that offense. Lamar Jackson taken. Wow. Dak is taken. Please don't take Jalen Waddle. Leave me Jalen Waddle. Dang it! So close. Well, I have 3 elite running backs. I could go for Dobbins. He has some home run ability with Edwards being out now with injury. Ah, man. I told you, every year I get one of these drafts where nothing goes right. And right now I think we're looking at it. But if Dobbins, I like. Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe. I think there's too much value here to pass up on Dobbins. He gives me insurance ability for all 3 of my top running backs, plus some trade fodder if he does go off with Edwards being out, for possibly getting one of those elite receivers that already went in the draft. So I'm going to go ahead and go Dobbins. There aren't a lot of good running backs left, so these teams that already went quarterback and wide receiver are going to have to go or find their running back solutions elsewhere. Got a couple of auto drafts in between me, though. But we're probably going to be looking at, again, more running backs in this range. Kyler Murray is still there. What was his fantasy numbers last year? 300. And without Hopkins, I think those numbers are going to go down just a hair. Well, we're almost to our pick. We're probably going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do think Goff built up. Who do you think, or what do you think of the robust running back strategy? Usually I don't like it. Just because I like. Okay, I'll take it back. I love having a really good running back at the top, and then I love having a committee behind him. But, wow, Marquise Brown is still there. But I just would rather have elite receivers 1 and 2, and possibly even 3 if I had to, just because receivers are tougher to predict. Running back, I think you can find late-end options like Raheem Mostert, those type of players. Plus, you're going to have an injury issue at some point during the season. You look at Rashad Penny in Seattle, he's going to get a lot of work, but there's a lot of good running backs in there that if he goes down, you could pick up one of those fill-ins on a bye week, that kind of thing. Maybe you get a guy who goes down in week 1, like say Travis Etienne goes down again. James Robinson's going to be right back up there. Andrew Matheson for Dalvin Cook. Those type of players. Tony Pollard, everybody likes to draft him now, but by week 3, he's always dropped in leagues. But say Ezekiel Elliott goes down again with injury. Last year, he played almost the entire season with an injury. Well, I don't think the Cowboys are going to let him do that again, just because I think they want to see if Tony Pollard can hold it down. So maybe you could go with him on a bye week. But for this draft pick, I think I have to go Amon-Ra St. Brown. And no, it's not good having him as my second receiver, but that just means I'm going to have to load up on some receivers here. I mean, Godwin's still there, but he's got some injury issues coming into the season. There are some guys up here who have been drafted in the top 2 or 3 rounds in previous drafts that are falling into rounds 6 and 7. Looking at Allen Robinson, he could be a good option. You're good, Cooper. Thanks for joining us. As I mentioned the guy who's Cowboy crazy is literally draft. You always get somebody who's their favorite team. They want to draft every single player from their favorite team. Looks like Cowboy Cool Crazy is that one in this draft. And again, everybody drafting people out of position. Kyler Murray's gone. Let's just look at the quarterback market because there isn't a lot of good ones left. I'm probably going to go ahead and put Jalen Hurts in my queue. I mean, there's still a couple of good ones here. Rodgers and Brady, I figure to be top 5 options. Wilson, an 8 to 12 option. Burrow, an 8 to 12 option. Stafford, an 8 to 12 option. There's one of my other favorite receivers right there, Christian Kirk. Comes off the board. But now's the point of the draft where you start thinking about what's left at the quarterback spot. You don't want to be left without a top 10 quarterback. All right, looks like we got about, 9 picks before my next one? So that probably means we're going to be Gabriel Davis, Chris Godwin, Elijah Mitchell anyway. Everybody dumps on CEH, but he's still very fantasy relevant as far as a kind of a low floor option. Or high floor option anyway, just because he's going to get the most work out of that backfield. Now, do I think he has the longest leash there? No. But I think he's got to start proving it this year, his draft position. His yards per carry aren't crazy, but that's a pass-heavy offense. It's a very different type of... it's a very different offense for him to be in this year as opposed to last year. Last year they were looking for the home run. This year I think he might have a chance to be a little bit more consistent because I think they're going to be more like a regular NFL offense, not looking for the guy that for an 80-yard touchdown every single play. As we get into this area, I'm looking at Allen Robinson, looking at Godwin, looking at Davis, and then Juju Smith-Schuster as well. All right around in this area. Got about 5 picks left. Looks like we're going to be left with a couple of... there goes Jalen Hurts. Well, we're still going to have some good options. No need to sell out for a top-end quarterback at this point. He's probably the last one that was worth a top 70, 80 pick at this point. How's your draft going, Charles? Who have you got so far? You got Kupp and Lamb with your top 2 picks, right? There goes Rodgers. They are really overdrafting these quarterbacks. I'll be very happy at this point just to take one at the very back end of the draft and say, look, thanks for all the talent you left on the board for me. Looking at Sutton. Good. Connor should be a great RB1/2 for you. I like his touchdown potential, and I think he's going to get a lot more carries this year than he did last year, too. So you took Kupp 1, Connor 2, Lamb 3. I like that. Montgomery. He's not my favorite running back, but he should be a very solid player for you this year. I just wonder if he has the potential to be elite or not. If I'm going that high for a running back, I'd like to have some chance at having a top 5 running back. I don't think Montgomery will be. I think he's guaranteed to be a top 15 running back, but I don't think he has a chance to be a top 5. There goes Sutton. So I'm left with Davis, Godwin. Davis is more of an end zone threat. Hmm. So he's building momentum is what they're saying, huh? Well, I'm not going to get another chance to take him. So it's basically Gabe Davis, Godwin, or Robinson because of all of the auto picks in between here. And I'm hoping one of those guys goes running back after that. So I'll go ahead and take Gabe Davis. And then I'm going to hope, beyond hope, that Robinson is still there. If not, Schuster is probably my next best bet. I like Devontae Smith, but I wonder about that offense if they have enough balls to be able to throw around in there. I wonder how many fantasy relevant players that offense is going to be able to support. Hurts, I think, because of his rushing ability, will actually eat from some of those top end receiving options. And don't pick a single running back out of that system. Sorry. Godwin's already gone. I'm just hoping Allen Robinson is still there. He's probably my next pick. I've got 3 receivers, 4 running backs. I don't have a quarterback yet, but I'm willing to wait another couple rounds just to make sure I build up that roster a little bit thicker. Looks like we're about to have a couple of picks come off the board here. Mariners are officially announcing the extension right now for Julio Rodriguez. Schultz comes off the board. Bateman comes off the board. Hey, all right. That worked out. Both of my top options are left, and I will gladly take, I think, Allen Robinson here. I've taken Juju in almost every single draft because he's the one that's available at this point for me. I think people are scared by his production last year with Ben Roethlisberger as quarterback. I mean, who would you rather have throwing you the ball, Ben Roethlisberger or Patrick Mahomes? I mean, it's not close. Come on, man. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, I love the man. I mean, I really enjoy his competitiveness. Uh, you know, he is kind of a lumbering quarterback, and you don't really see that much in the league anymore. But he just wasn't an NFL caliber quarterback anymore over the last couple of years, anyway. And those were the 2 down years Juju's had. I think with Patrick Mahomes, you're talking about maybe a top 20 receiver this year. Robinson, though, if Cooper Kupp does go down, I think you're talking about a top 10 receiver. If he's healthy, probably about a top 25 receiver. But I think his ceiling is just a touch higher. Ooh, it's close. I don't know. Fuck. Okay, there we go. Allen Robinson. Had to do it. I'm just hoping the rest of these teams are scared off by Juju and maybe he falls to me in the next round. Highly, highly unlikely. Yep, there he goes, the next pick. Oh well. So I still have my tight end to fill and quarterback spot. Just to kind of check in on where the tight end market is, see if anybody's left that's worth even considering. Hawkinson. I don't know. Injuries last year. He has a chance to be a good fantasy receiver or fantasy tight end. I usually like to stream that position. I don't know. Goddard is still on the board. I do think he comes down in value just because of the Eagles' offense. So I think Hawkinson's probably the best option here. So if he falls to me at pick 87, I'd probably have to take him. For running backs left on the board, people should be targeting Damian Pierce, or Pierce anyway. I've already got 4 running backs though, and there's probably 5 that I really like that are still on the board. Running backs that I think have a chance to finish in the top 20 this year. He is among that group. With Hawkinson coming off the board there, that pretty much means I'm going to probably save my tight end for one of the last picks there. Goddard as well, but I wasn't going to pick him. I just don't have... Oh, and there goes Pierce. No. Told you this draft is just not going my way. Brady's probably the safest bet at quarterback left on the board. A bunch of auto picks in between at this point. People starting to leave this draft. This is when you can start to pick up some value. Drake London. I've never really considered him. I mean, it's Marcus Mariota throwing him the ball. I mean, and Brady's gone right there. This draft is just not going well. Hopkins is still there. I'm going to have to carry him for a few weeks at least, though. Dylan, Lance, Penny, all of this group right in here are all draftable. But we're at the top of this part of the draft. I need to secure my QB1. What was Wilson's numbers last year? He missed, what, 5 games last year? Due to injury. All right. Burrow has a chance to be a top 10 quarterback. I just don't know how much of a chance that is. $314. That offensive line is going to be better. All right, Burrow. We'll take a chance on you, I think. I do worry about my fantasy. Look at the bye weeks, though. You want to be careful not to overdraft those spots. All right. Now's where you want to be very careful with what you do. Hopkins, I think, is the best fantasy value going forward. I mean, I worry about inconsistent weeks like this and injury issues last year with the suspension. Hopefully he'll come out a little bit more aggressive. And I am needy at that wide receiver spot still. Yeah. I think it's Hopkins. Yep. Hopkins is the pick. Now that we've gotten to the back end of the draft again, Romeo Doubs out of Green Bay. Keep your eyes on him. Mostart again. Keep your eyes on him. And then we're keeping our eyes here on Trey Lance as my home run option at quarterback. and A.J. Dillon. Rashad Penny as well, and James Robinson. And the last one I want to put on this list is Pickens, wherever he went. Oh, don't forget Darrell Henderson Jr. There's George Pickens. Okay, now I've got my bench options pretty much set. Let's scroll back up to the top. We've got quite a ways to go still. What round are you in now, Charles? Two more rounds left? Four more rounds left. Okay. I was going to say, that was pretty quick. I still got, what, 4 more rounds left at least? 6 more rounds. Olave, I like his production that he's had at Ohio State. I wonder how good he's going to be with the Saints, though. I mean, he still has Jameis Winston throwing to him. He could be fantastic. I don't know. I don't know if he will be, though. With our next pick, we're going to go with our home run option anyway. Now that Dillon and Penny are both off the board. Just hoping Trey Lance is still there. And if you guys want to know, you can always switch to a different team and see where they're at. Like Fields has Jackson at quarterback. Crazy has Prescott at quarterback. Wow, kicker? Okay. Just leave me Trey Lance. That's all I want. There goes Olave. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take Lance here. You like having a few defenses. Why? I understand you want to have a top flight defense every week, but that's a roster spot you can use for, well, pretty much anything. Backup quarterback, somebody who can be a top flight quarterback, because your top flight quarterback is, even your middling quarterback is going to be better than your backup defense. All right. On the clock again. We still have to get our tight end defense. We got 2 spots left. We still need to get a running back. James has gone off the board already. So I'm going to go ahead and lock up Must Start, because I think he's got a real chance to be an elite running back this year. And I only have 4 of them on the roster. That makes 5. Well, yeah, but I mean, I always stream my defense unless there's like one elite defense that's there in round 15. But, I mean, every single week I got a top 5 defense just from the matchup. I mean, sure, not every week you're going to have the team facing the Jets. But, I mean, every single week you can find somebody going up against a subpar offense. I mean, like the lottery tickets that I'm taking right now, Raheem Mostert, if he's healthy this year, he's a top 20 back. That's somebody you could use your spot that you're using on those defenses. Other players that I would have taken in this spot that just went off the board, A.J. Dillon, he's going to be very similar production anyway to Aaron Jones this year, I believe. And those are just the running backs. Now the receivers, DeAndre Hopkins is getting drafted in this range. I think Dubes is going to be a fantastic receiver this year. I'm just not sure it'll be at the beginning of the season, but I think by week 6, week 7, you're looking at probably a 15-point-a-game receiver. I mean, I understand the liking of the defenses. I'm not going to knock it too much, but I just don't think you should be giving up roster spots to a defense you're not playing every week. I mean, if you had the number 1 overall defense in the league and then streaming the second defense, okay. I mean, if you had the number 1 and number 2 defense, I guess I could understand that, but then you have bye week considerations to worry about. Whereas if you stream that second defense, then you always have a defense you don't have to worry about bringing on a third defense for. And then not every defense are made equal. I mean, every year you see teams have really great production one year, and then the next year they can't muster 100 points. Still got one bench spot left. That's going to go to Dubes or Henderson, I hope. I'm hoping Dubes. Now with my tight end spot, there's not a whole lot of good ones left because literally all of them were overdrafted. But there's still some options out there. I do like to stream as well at this position if I can't find one of those elites. For instance, there goes Dawson Knox. He's a good tight end target. Evan Ingram in Jacksonville this year should get some run. I think he has a chance to be a touchdown target this year for Trevor Lawrence. Hunter Henry has always been very good as far as touchdown production. Last year he had 164 fantasy points. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and lock up. I want to lock up Dubes, I think. Henry's going to come off the board, I believe, though. Okay, so we're looking at Dubes, Henry, or Ingram. Let's look at just Ingram and Henry for a minute. Which one would I rather have? Henry's a week 10 bye. That's the other thing I have to keep in mind. Ingram is week 11. Do I have a lot of week 11 buys? No, I don't. So I'm probably just going to go Evan Ingram, honestly. All right, Dubes is the pick. There we go. Now time to see what happens. Wow, and Henry is still there. Okay. Henry or Ingram again. I mean, the Packers defense is there. 49ers defense is there for my next pick, but Ingram has a real chance to be epic. Let's look at his last few games of the year last year. 25 fantasy points in one game, nothing, and then decent production again. Just inconsistent. At this point of the draft, you're looking for home run because you're looking more at inconsistent play more than anything else. So a home run pick could be Evan Ingram, just because in that offense he could have real production. I mean, that Giants offense was just abysmal. Ever since his rookie year, it just was a long, winding trail down. Alrighty. Getting to our final two picks, which, as I mentioned, should always be your defense and kicker. No exceptions. Still a couple of good defenses here at the top. I like to go defense first. There goes the 49ers defense. They have a chance to be really good this year. And then, like I mentioned, look at your week 1 schedule. If you're going to stream a defense, look at that week 1 schedule. The Jets play the Ravens. The Ravens defense, I think, is long gone. Yep. Yep. Taken back in round 10. 5 rounds earlier. Way too early for a defense, but that's okay. Alright. Looks like we're going to be left with Colts, Cowboys, Commanders, Chargers. Any of those defenses really jumping out at me? Wow. Geno Smith is named the starter for week 1 for Seattle. Yikes. That means the Broncos defense has some real value week 1. I think the performance today by Drew Lock kind of sealed that, though. I'm going to go with Broncos defense, I think. That's going to be a revenge game for Russell Wilson as well. That team's going to be fired up. Give me Broncos defense. Now, McManus has been my favorite kicker so far just because of the way he's being drafted. But remember, I like to look at accuracy, 50-yard opportunities, those kinds of things. Greg Joseph is going to have more of an offensive-minded team anyway this year with O'Connell coming in. Didn't have a whole lot of opportunity last year. Doesn't have a whole lot of accuracy either. Let's look at Prater. Gets a lot of 50-plus attempts. Gets some good production there. I do like his options anyway this year. He is a year older, though. Jake Elliott should get some opportunities this year. Fairly accurate. Not great production, though. Anybody else on an offensive-minded team? Robbie Gould, maybe? Got 30 seconds here, so let's kind of look at this fairly quickly. Good extra point usage. They do like to go for it a fair amount. Ryan Suckup as well. Solid. Scary. Not much opportunity from 50-plus, though. Okay, so I think that pretty much solves it. We're going to have to go with Prater. But again, you can always stream that. There's not too many. You don't have to worry too much about your kicker. Usually you can find a top 5 option after a couple weeks on your waiver wire, so just pay attention to it. Once this draft is over, we'll kind of go over it with you. This was not my best draft. The board just did not fall the right way at most of the picks for me in this draft. I was very happy with the running back I got first in Najee Harris. I got at least one top-end receiver anyway, in my opinion, in T. Higgins. He's going to finish as a top 10 receiver this year. I like the lottery ticket I got with Trey Lance at quarterback. I like some of the middling receivers I got. But running back is where I'm going to have to make my hay this year. With Mixon, Harris, and Chubb with Dobbins as well. Dobbins is going to be the guy that early on he's going to have great numbers because no Gus Edwards. So I'm going to look to flip him after a couple weeks to a team with a top-end wide receiver. Now, do I expect to get Cooper Kupp? No. But I'm looking for maybe another T. Higgins type. Somebody in that range, maybe a Jalen Waddle. Something like that, and then maybe pick up another back-end piece. Just depends on how things go. One pick left in this draft. And there it is. So first round, we went Najee Harris. With our second pick, all of the players that we were really thinking about were gone. And it was a little too early to take Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce or something like that. If we had done that, that probably would have changed how we went about this draft. But Joe Mixon probably had the highest floor available, and we did ultimately end up having to be auto-drafted on that one because I couldn't make up my mind. But gives us a really solid 1-2 punch at running back. And then, of course, I got lucky with T. Higgins. I did not expect him to be there with my third pick, but he was. Nick Chubb, just an automatic yes, please, thank you. I'll take him. He's definitely going to finish as a top 10 running back this year. If he can stay healthy, he could finish as a top 5 running back. Everybody looks at Jonathan Taylor this year as the de facto number 1, easy, automatic, book it pick. But I think Nick Chubb is right in that conversation this year if he stays healthy. He could be in that number 1 pick discussion next year based on how this year goes, especially considering they got Jacoby Brissett under center. They're going to run the ball and run it a lot. They have some better options outside, so that might pull away at least one defender for him to at least get some running lanes early in the season. But when Deshaun Watson comes in, that's when that offense should really kick into gear. But he'll have most of his numbers already made up by that point, and I think he's going to eat early on. As I mentioned, Dobbins is going to have a great early start to the year. He's kind of your home run option for me on this team for the running back spot. I got 3 A-plus floor options. Dobbins is the home run if he can really hit those production levels. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not a great number 2 receiver in my opinion. He should be more of a flex option in most teams. But for me, just the way the board fell, there was no real option for receiver up until that point. And so Amon-Ra St. Brown slots in as my number 2, possibly flipping around with Gabe Davis and Allen Robinson depending on the week. So I got 3 very similar receivers, in my opinion, right at that spot. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he lives up to the numbers he got last year with a 30% target share, don't think it's going to happen. But if he can build off of that rapport he built at the end of last year, being the second best fantasy receiver over the final 5 weeks of the season, then I could really have something with him. But again, I don't see it happening. The rest of the draft, Gabe Davis, it seems like he could be poised for a breakout, much like Chris Godwin a couple of years ago, depending on who you believe. But for my money, that 4-touchdown game last year kind of opened everybody's eyes. But everybody, I think, still believes that's more of a flash in the pan. The way he's being used so far, though, in practices and offenses, or in the offense for the Buffalo Bills, though, speaks to a continued growth for him in that offense. More opportunities. He's the only receiver on that team with any type of size. So as far as touchdowns, he may snipe a few away from Stephon Diggs, which for me, I'll take it. Give me some Gabe Davis. Allen Robinson, he fits into that Odell Beckham Jr. role in this offense. I think he's going to be used more as a receiver in this offense, whereas Robert Woods the year before was used more as a blocker and then would still catch the occasional pass. Joe Burrow is my quarterback. He's kind of your safe 8 to 10, 8 to 12 quarterback option. DeAndre Hopkins, a little inconsistent last year, but he's going to miss the first 6 weeks. I'm hoping that the IR spot can be used for him. I'm not sure, but I'll have to double check. But in fact, we'll probably do that here in just a moment. But he's going to be on my roster, and if none of these receivers pan out, at least I've got a former number one receiver in fantasy sitting there on my bench after week 6. Trey Lance is my home run option at quarterback. He's going to be my home run option in most drafts. If I get Jalen Hurts, he's also a home run option, but he's also the most has the highest fantasy floor, I think, for fantasy quarterbacks this year. Raheem Mostart, I think if he's healthy for all 16, 17 games this year, he will be in the top 20 for fantasy running backs. However, the injury issues and those kinds of things are an issue in the past. We'll see what happens. They still have Waddle and Hill and Gesicki there with Miami. The new coach there came over from the 49ers system, so he's very familiar with Mostart. We'll see if he can continue that success. Dubes can be a very successful receiver. I think he's going to struggle early on because, again, he's a rookie. He's going to struggle with drops. But as Aaron Rodgers continues to trust him a little bit more, they're going to have to throw to one of those rookie receivers, and I think Dubes is probably the best of that bunch right now. Evan Ingram is kind of my wild card tight end. I believe he has a chance for red zone targets, that kind of a thing. Trevor Lawrence does like to throw the ball over the middle, and that's where I think Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk are going to eat this year. I took the Denver Broncos because they faced the Seattle Seahawks week 1, and then Matt Prater, the kicker, because of his accuracy and the ability to kick that 50-yard field goal. That gives you more points. You want to value accuracy and length of kick when you go to your kickers. But again, you can always stream those options, so don't worry too much if you don't get your top guy. Those top 3 tight ends, Mark Andrews anyway, Travis Kelce, and Kyle Pitts. If you don't get one of those options, it's okay. You can wait on tight end. Say Evan Ingram doesn't work out for me. That's okay. I'm okay going ahead and trying to stream that position from week to week, trying to get the best option I can, because I'd rather have the production at running back and wide receiver and quarterback. All 3 of those are far more important to me than tight end. Now, if you can get one of those elite guys, great for you. But for me, this is just the way the board fell. Just so you guys can kind of see, let's find out if we can move Hopkins. Nope, you can't move him to IR. So he's going to eat a roster spot for me. Ouch. But hey, I needed a solid floor guy for me with DeAndre Hopkins, somebody with the ability to be a top target here, and he could be my top receiver after T. Higgins in my mind as the season winds down. But just to kind of look at my roster here, Joe Burrow is probably going to be my week 1 starter. Maybe Trey Lance, because they are going up against Chicago. All the changes the Bears have had on that defense, but again, he's a rookie starter. He does have very good running numbers, but I really like that the changes that the Cincinnati Bengals made to that offensive line. I think they're going to be better. So I think I'll leave him in there for week 1. But that's kind of how the roster shapes up. But hope you guys had fun with us. Tomorrow we'll have night 2 of our draft. We're going to do some salary cap stuff tomorrow night. So make sure you join us for that. We'll be starting right around probably 6 o'clock, 5:30. Just kind of depends on if I get out at work early and how quickly I can eat dinner before I get on. But I appreciate you guys joining us. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Charles, your draft already finished up, or you still got another pick or 2 left? Appreciate you guys joining us again. But hope you all have a great evening, and don't have too much fun out there. I know the weekend, everybody likes to have a lot of fun, a lot of football coming, but keep your cooler heads about you. Make sure when you're drafting, you're not drafting with emotion or trying to draft your favorite team. We saw the Cowboys fan in this draft. Even though I'm a Cowboys fan myself, I'm smart enough to realize that not every single Cowboy should be on my fantasy roster. Sorry. Jalen Tolbert should not be a starting receiver on your team. Tony Pollard should not be your running back 1 or 2. Ezekiel Elliott should not be your running back 1. Michael Gallup should not be drafted, in my opinion. But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night for Fantasy Draft Night 2. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Rewatch if you're curious about how players are going in the drafts. We saw one draft where it was kind of normal. Players are drafted in pretty average spots anyway. And then this draft, you saw everything being overdrafted. So you got to make sure you have a plan for when that happens. You saw me. I didn't have the greatest of plans but I still ended up with a draft that works for me. I got lots of options at wide receiver. I got studs at running back. I got some lottery tickets at all 3 spots. So I'm really happy with the way this team laid out. I would like to have had a better tight end, but just the way the board fell, it wasn't going to happen. I would like to have had a better first-string quarterback, but Joe Burrow, just the way it kind of fell, all the quarterbacks were basically taken by the 7th round. You're going to have drafts like that. So if you play a lot of fantasy, be prepared for that when it happens and have a strategy to make sure you at least get one of your top 10 guys and then a lottery ticket as that second option. But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.